She's been on the floor for a while now. The papers are scattered around her. She knocked the stack over, started picking them up, and somewhere along the way, just stopped. Because on the board across the room, there's a murder case she has no business reading. A dead husband, a wife listed as the primary suspect. An entire investigation mapped out in markers and photographs. Morgan reads all of it, takes her time, and when she gets to that one word, suspect, she gets up, walks to the board, and crosses it out, writes one word underneath it, in red, victim. Then she puts the cap back on the marker and goes back to cleaning. That's it, one word. But if she's right, and she is, the entire investigation just changed direction. And what she just did, that was obstruction of justice. 2 seasons, 31 episodes. Morgan Gillory has built a record that doesn't fit neatly into either category. There are decisions she's made that cracked open cases the entire LAPD had already written off, and decisions that came within inches of destroying everything around her. Sometimes those two things happen in the same hour, sometimes with the exact same instinct. This is 10 of those decisions. 5 head-to-head matchups. Each round, the genius call goes up against the reckless one. One of these matchups ends with someone she was trying to protect getting hurt instead. And the last one isn't an action at all. It's something Morgan never did. And it might be the most telling pattern across the entire run of this show. 5 rounds. Duell 1, the board season 1, episode 1. The detectives had it wrong, and they didn't know it. They had Lynette Acosta, the wife, as their primary suspect, and every line of their investigation was built around proving that. But Morgan looks at the crime scene photos and sees something the entire homicide unit missed. The curtain tiebacks. One is gone. Not misplaced, not fallen behind something, just gone. In a house where every single pillow is symmetrically arranged, every shelf is perfectly ordered, every object placed with intention. A woman that meticulous doesn't leave one curtain untied by accident. Someone used that tie back for something else. Then the chair leg. Adhesive residue. Small hairs caught in the dried glue. Tape had been wrapped around the ankles and ripped off cleanly, and there are no marks on the victim's wrists, which means he wasn't the one tied up. She puts it together in minutes. Lynette wasn't the killer. Lynette was a victim. There was a third person in that room, and the investigation is aimed entirely in the wrong direction. That's the genius side. The reckless side is that she did all of this without a badge, without authorization, and without anyone asking her to be there. She walked into a police precinct after hours, found an active murder case, and altered the evidence board. When Karadek confronts her the next morning, he doesn't dress it up. Tampering with a criminal case is a serious crime. So is obstruction of justice. Her response is worth sitting with.
I have a compulsion to put things right. If I see a mistake, I need to correct it.
She saw a problem and she tried to fix it. And then, almost as an aside, she didn't care about them. She wanted to be able to sleep. She's not defending herself. She's explaining how she's wired. The compulsion to correct what's wrong in front of her isn't strategic. It's involuntary. And that distinction matters enormously for everything that comes after this. Round 1 is a push. The same compulsion that broke the law was the one that found the victim. Duell 2, The Learning Curve Season 1, Episodes 2 and 3. The second episode opens with a man found unconscious on a rooftop, wearing tap shoes. First read from the responding officers, possible suicide attempt, unusual but not unworkable. Morgan notices something on the tripod near the roof's edge. A phone, but the smudge patterns on the screen show a left-handed grip, and the victim is right-handed. This wasn't his phone, which means someone else was on that roof with him. That one observation reframes the entire premise of the case before anyone has finished interviewing witnesses. But 10 seconds after she notices it, Karadek has to stop her. Gloves, please. She picks up the phone with her bare hands, turns it on, starts reading it. By the time anyone has said anything, she's already touched everything and documented nothing. Her instinct to understand arrived before her instinct to preserve, and those two things cannot both win. Episode 3 goes further still. She takes evidence home. Not as an accident, but because she wants more time to work on it. When Karadec shows up at her front door, he's not angry so much as he is precise.
You never take evidence home, Morgan. Ever.
You never take evidence home, Morgan. Ever. And the consequence he lays out isn't abstract. Everything in that bag just became inadmissible in court. A killer could walk free because she wanted an extra hour to think. What the writers are doing across these 3 episodes is specific and deliberate. 3 consecutive reckless calls, each a version of the same underlying problem. Her perception runs ahead of the rules that exist to make that perception count in a courtroom. She's learning, slowly, where the lines are, but the learning is never quite finished, and that's not an accident. Duell 3, The Keys. Season 1, Episode 3. The team has a first name, Eduardo. No last name, no address, no plate number, just a neighborhood tailor who remembers the guy. Morgan has the victim's keys in an evidence bag. She starts pressing the remote unlock button as she walks through the parking lot. Methodical, 1 row at a time. A car chirps. Eduardo's Toyota. Right there. That's the break that opens the rest of the case. And it came from one small, lateral decision that no one else in that parking lot would have thought to make. But those keys were evidence. She had no authorization to take them from the scene, no authorization to use them as an investigative tool, and no authorization to be doing what she was doing. She made that call unilaterally because the logic made sense to her, and the logic did make sense. That's what makes this harder to dismiss than it looks. The pattern is becoming clear. The same instinct that finds the lead is the one that bends and sometimes breaks the rules that exist to make that lead admissible. Up to this point, the cost has been manageable. Duell 4 is where that changes. Duell 4, The Black Jewel Season 2, Episode 4. Mac Epps' car is in impound. Morgan is going through it with Karadec when she notices something on the windshield. A moth. A yucca moth specifically, which depends entirely on Joshua trees to survive. Yucca moths don't live in Los Angeles. They live in the Mojave. Epps was their primary suspect in Reina Vieira's murder, but if this car was in the Mojave on the day Reina died, the nearest federal prison out there is Victorville. 2 hours away. The visit records confirm it. Epps was there. He has an alibi. The entire case pivots, the actual killer is someone else, and the thread that gets them there is one insect on a windshield. That's the genius side of Duell 4. Earlier in the same episode, Morgan and Karadec visited Epps' club, the Black Jewel, without a warrant. Morgan talked her way past security by complimenting a bodyguard's jacket, sat down, accepted their food, and then proceeded to lay out the details of a 25-year-old murder directly to the primary suspect's face. Epps' lawyer called within the hour. The message was simple. Come back without a warrant, and he starts collecting badges. Karadec's career just became a bargaining chip because Morgan walked into a room she had no legal standing to enter. What's different about Duell 4 isn't the recklessness. It's what comes after it. Later in the episode, sitting at Karadec's desk, Morgan says something she almost never says.
You were right.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? I didn't hear you.
You were right about me not going to the Black Jewel. Certain things a police consultant does not need to be around. No deflection, no reframe, just you were right. That matters, because across 4 episodes and 2 seasons, that moment stands almost entirely alone. Round 4, Reckless. For the first time, the genius call and the reckless one are in completely separate scenes. The moth is clean, the Black Jewel is not. Duell 5, Ava. Duell 5 has no crime scene, no evidence bag, no warrant problem, and no witnesses. There's just one sentence Morgan has been repeating for 15 years, every time Ava asks, every time the silence gets too heavy. He didn't leave. He vanished. Something happened to him. He would not have left you. That's a decision. Not one she made once. One she keeps making. The genius side is that she was right, at least as far as the show has shown us. Roman didn't abandon them. He was watching. He asked Arthur to keep an eye on Morgan and Ava, just to make sure they were okay. 15 years of distance, and he was still there, somewhere. The reckless side is what Morgan built on top of that belief. Ava grew up inside the version of events Morgan chose to tell her. And when Season 2 begins to crack that version open, the moment that shows the cost isn't explosive. It's quiet. Ava, in a single line.
Actually let myself believe they didn't abandon us.
I still believe that.
I actually let myself believe that he didn't abandon us. Morgan's response? I still believe that. She says it without hesitation. Clean and certain, the way she states facts about curtain tiebacks and adhesive residue. But this isn't a crime scene. This is her daughter. And the mechanisms she uses to protect cases, confidence in her own reading, resistance to doubt, is the same one she's using here. In the Season 2 finale, Ava stands in front of her art show and says she had some help from her dad. There's something in the way she says it that only works because Morgan never stopped believing. But in that same episode, Morgan tells Karadec something about Lucia. About why he couldn't see who she really was.
You just loved her too much to see the things that you didn't want to see.
You just loved her too much to see the things that you didn't want to see. She says it like it's obvious. The writers place that line with precision. Morgan diagnoses Karadec's blind spot in one sentence. In the same episode where the thing she built for Ava is still standing, still unresolved, still entirely dependent on Roman being who Morgan believes he is. If he isn't, Ava doesn't just lose a father. She loses the version of her mother who always knew. The writers never resolved genius or reckless, and they weren't supposed to. They built a character where those two things run on the same current, and the only variable is context. Change the case, change the stakes, change the emotional distance, and the exact same Morgan Gillory produces a completely different result. What carries into Season 3 isn't whether she'll cross a line. It's whether she'll ever have to face the one case where crossing lines isn't enough. The picture Morgan built for Ava depends on one question she hasn't been able to answer in 16 years. Who Roman Sinquerra actually is. If you want the full timeline, what the writers buried across both seasons, and what Season 3 is almost certainly building toward, that video is already up. I'm not sure Morgan ever actually plans to stop. I'm not sure the show wants her to.